Hi, I'm Miss Pat, and this is Miss Stella, and we're with the Westminster branch of the Carroll County Public Library, and we're happy that you could join us tonight. We're going to be sharing some scary books with you because, as we all know, we're about to go into that scary time of year. So with that being said, Miss Stella, I have a good one that I want to tell everybody about. This is called The 10th Girl by Sarah Faring. In this book, a family leaves Europe and they go to the southern tip of South America. They build an enormous mansion on rock-hard ground overlooking the sea and the glaciers. Now, the mother is a very stern woman, and she always tells her children when they hurt themselves or when they're disappointed in something or discouraged to walk it off. So when those boys got old enough, they decided they would do just that, walk away. So they left her. She had her daughter. She was starting to get a little lonely, and she came up with the idea to start a girls' finishing school. Her daughter would be one of the students, and she would advertise for 9 more students, only from the wealthiest families. So she did just that. She got 9 more students. She started the school, and things were great at first. But then out of nowhere, some of the students started getting sick, one by one. Now, some people thought it was some kind of strange virus, just like we're experiencing right now. But then there were others that felt that that land was cursed, since it was taken away from the original natives that owned it. The school ended up closing up. 65 years later, a descendant of that woman decided she was going to reopen that school, and once again would have 10 students from extremely wealthy families. She pulled in teachers from all over. One of the conditions when they arrived there was, you were not to leave your room after dark. You were to lock your doors and stay within the confines of your bedroom until morning. History started repeating itself once again. I want to tell you, there is an extreme twist to this story that I never saw coming. The 10th Girl by Sarah Faring.
I'm going to tell you about Cold Case, and this is by Julia Platt Leonard, and I hope you can handle this. This is the story of a boy named Oz, and he's only 13, and he lives with his mother and his older brother Dave, who is in his 20s, and they own a fancy French restaurant. Oz's dad died before he was born, so he never knew his dad, but his mom and his brother and he are running the restaurant, and they're very good at it. They're very successful. One day, Oz's mother comes to Dave and Oz and says, I have to go to France. Your grandmother is ill. She had a stroke, and you guys are going to have to take care of things while I'm gone. And they're like, we can do it, Mom. Don't worry. Well, she left, and sure enough, they were in charge. And Dave asked Oz if he'd come in the next morning really early to open up and to clean the grease from the cookers. And Oz told him he would. So he set his alarm for 5 the next morning, and it went off. He got up, got dressed, and he went out on the porch to get his bike to ride to the restaurant, and he saw that Dave's car wasn't in the driveway, and he thought, well, didn't he come home last night? Maybe he went to work early. Why does he need me to go to work? Well, I'm going to go early anyway because he asked me to. So he hops on his bike, and he rides over to the restaurant, and when he gets there, he sees that the light is out in the parking lot. It's pitch dark. So he walks across to the door, and he's stepping on broken glass, and he realizes that the light above the door must have broken, and the glass is all over the grass. Well, he pulled his key out and put it in to unlock, and he realized it was already unlocked. Now, should he go in? He has to. He told Dave that he would. So he opened the door. He stepped in, he reached along the wall, and he found the light switch, flipped it on, and he saw blood everywhere. Blood splatters on the wall, on the floor, on the stainless steel cutters. It was squelching under his feet as he walked through to the freezer, and he reached for the door to pull it open. Would you do that?
Haley comes home from school. She lives in a very rural area. Her mom's still at work. Her dad's out operating a combine in one of the cornfields. When she walks up on the porch, she notices something odd lying next to the door. She reaches down and she picks up an egg timer. It's still warm to the touch, and it's actually very cold outside. She doesn't really give it a second thought. She goes into the house. She puts it on the counter. She decides to make herself a sandwich. Gets out a knife, gets out everything to make the sandwich. When she's done, she puts the knife in the sink, and she says, well, I'll put it in the dishwasher later on. She goes into the room, she calls a friend, they talk for a few minutes. When she hangs up, she goes back into the kitchen, and her foot hits something on the floor, kind of skitters across the floor. It's the egg timer. Well, she thinks to herself, well, maybe I didn't put it up on the counter far enough, and it just fell down. When she reaches for the knife to put into the dishwasher, it's no longer in the sink. But when she opens up the dishwasher to put in the plate she has, there is the knife. So she thinks to herself, I have got to be a lot more tired than I thought I was. I need to go lay down, take a nap. She goes upstairs, she crawls across her bed, shuts off the light. A while later, she's startled. She wakes up suddenly to a shrill sound. It's the egg timer. It's sitting on her dresser, and it's going off. The book is called There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins.
Oh my gosh, you are not going to believe what happened one night at Pete's Pizza Shop. Kayla and Drew are working, and they take a call from this weird man who orders 3 giant, meat lovers pizzas. And he asks, is that girl who drives the Mini Cooper, is she working tonight? Is she going to be the one to deliver the pizzas? And Drew tells him, well, it doesn't matter who's bringing it. Someone will bring the pizzas. Don't worry about that. Well, he gets off the phone, and he tells Kayla, let's put these pizzas together, and then you deliver them. So they throw them all together and put them in the oven, take them out, put them in the box, and then Kayla hops in her car and takes off. Well, Drew keeps waiting, and Kayla doesn't come back. And he really starts to get worried, so he calls her parents, and her parents call the police. Well, the police come, and then they go out to check the address where she was delivering the pizzas. No house existed at that address. But what the police found was Kayla's car. And it was still running with the keys in the ignition. The door was hanging open. Her purse was on the seat next to the driver's seat. And outside, the grass and everything was disturbed, like there had been a struggle. And there was Kayla's white baseball cap on the ground and a rock with blood on it. The pizza boxes were scattered all over the place, but no Kayla. Well, they searched and waited and couldn't find Kayla, and the police tested the blood on the rock and determined that it was her DNA. So I will tell you this, early on, and the night she disappeared by April Henry, you'll learn that Kayla is alive and that she's being held against her will by a man. And this man had asked about Gaby, who drives the Mini Cooper. So is he looking for Gaby? Will Gaby be next? Kayla learns too that she's not the first girl that this man kidnapped and held against her will. Will Gaby be next? Each day, Kayla gets weaker and weaker. The night she disappeared.
Our next book is set in a futuristic world, a world where unicorns exist and vampires exist and people called unnaturals exist. And unnaturals can be a lot of different types of people, but one of them is not even a human, but a creature that feeds on the pain of others. Now there's a young lady, and her name is Nita, and Nita loves biology. I also want to mention that in this futuristic world, there's also a black market for parts, body parts, be they from humans or unnaturals. So Nita has this interest in biology. Her mother is involved in the black market. She brings home bodies, and it's Nita's job to dissect them and package them for shipment, where they're sent to various places and sold. Now, Nita can distance herself from this because she doesn't know where the bodies come from. She doesn't know anything about these people, nothing. But then one day, her mother comes home with a live boy. He's in a cage in the back room. And her mother comes in and tells Nita, we're going to start dissecting him alive, piece by piece. And it's her job to do this. All of a sudden, she sees a real person, and she can't ethically bring herself to do this. So she helps that young man escape. The problem is she puts herself in jeopardy. And is her mother vengeful? Would her mother actually do something to get even? The book is called Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaefer.
Okay, a Fear Street novel, Can You Keep a Secret or Are You Dying to Tell by R.L. Stein. This is about Eddie and Emmy and their friends, and they make plans to go camp out in the woods. Emmy doesn't tell her parents where she's going. She says she's going to a friend's house. So they're all going to meet up in the woods and have a good time. Unfortunately, when they made these plans, they didn't know that a wolf had been spotted in these same woods. As a matter of fact, leading up to that day that they were going to go on this trip, a man was walking near the woods with his dog, and a wolf came out of the woods and attacked and killed the dog. Well, when Eddie and Emmy heard about this, they didn't change their plans. They decided to go anyway. So they arrive in the woods, and they're setting up their tent, and they're crouched down, trying to start a fire. When somebody says, well, do we need to be worried? If there's a wolf in the woods, what do we do? And Danny said, oh, don't worry, I've got it covered. And they all looked at him. He had his hand in his pocket, and he pulled out a pistol. Well, they all screamed. He's like, don't worry, I'll put it away, but we're safe. I've got protection. Well, his father was a police officer, so apparently he'd gotten his father's pistol. So they were a little nervous, but he put it away, so it's okay. So they're building the fire, and then suddenly Emmy screams because she saw a movement nearby, and they all looked, and it was the wolf, and they all started running, jumped up and started running and stepping in the grass and screaming.
Sometimes the scariest books are the ones that could actually happen. And this book, Nick, is on a train bound for the reservation. Nick is trained in survival skills. He's Native American, and he's going to be teaching some classes. Now, when he gets on the train, he goes to get something to eat, and he accidentally turns the wrong way. So he's not headed towards his cabin. He's headed away from it. He goes to a door that he thinks is his cabin. He opens it up, and to his surprise, he sees a man over top of another man, and he has a wire in his hand. The wire is around the other man's throat. He sees a bag with money spilled across the floor. He makes eye contact with that man, and the man nods his head, and Nick takes off in the opposite direction. The problem is he's still running the wrong way, and he finds himself at the end of the train. That man comes up behind him, grabs him in an enormous bear hug, opens the door to the outside, and has Nick dangling. At this point in time, the train is right over a trestle bridge, which is extremely high. The man looks at Nick and says, it's nothing personal. and shoves him out the back door. Nick starts to plunge downward when the strap on his backpack catches on a spike on the bridge, the only thing saving him from falling. He knows that man has seen what's happened, and he knows if he can get down off that bridge, that man's still going to come after him. So now here he is out in the wilderness. He has to try to figure out a way to escape that man, as well as any bears and anything else that might be out there. The book is called Found by Joseph Bruchac.
Okay, next up is The Detour by S.A. Bodine. This is the story of a girl named Libby. She's 17, and Libby's very smart. She's also really good at writing. She is so good that she's been published, and she's paid thousands of dollars for her books and to do workshops. People come to her workshops because they want to learn to be a successful writer just like she is. She's only 17 and she's homeschooled, and she also has her very own car, a convertible. One day she's driving in that convertible, going to a workshop, when she sees a really strange sight up ahead. She says, "What is that?" So she slows down and she sees this girl is standing on a log and she's playing a flute. And it's just really weird. Well, because she's looking at her instead of the road, she accidentally swerves into the ditch, and the car flips and it knocks her unconscious. Well, when she comes to, she's hanging upside down in her seatbelt, and this girl had gotten down off the log and walked over and was crouching down and looking at her and still playing the flute. It was just so weird. And she said, help me, because she was in pain. And the girl just looked at her. And then the girl reached down on the ground and picked up a stick and held it back like a club. And that was the last thing Libby remembered until she came to and she realized she was no longer in her car. She wasn't in an ambulance. She wasn't in a hospital. She realized that she was in somebody's basement, that she was being held prisoner in this basement.
This is our last book for this evening. This is my favorite. It's a terrifying tale about a brother and a sister. She is 17 years old. His sister Rosa is 10. Rosa is adorable. She looks like Shirley Temple. She has the locks, the smile. People are drawn to her. Now, here's the thing. She feels like he always needs to be near Rosa, not to protect Rosa from the world, but to protect the world from Rosa. She is convinced that his sister is a psychopath. The book is called My Sister Rosa by Justine Larbalestier.
Well, Pat, this has been so much fun. Let's do it again real soon, okay?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay.
I think I hear somebody knocking at the door.
Do you want me to get the door?
Sure.
All right.